This is 40K Today, voted the number one Warhammer 40K 15-minute magazine-style international podcast on all of Cadia Prime. You know, before the fall. Hi there and welcome to 40K Today. This is your daily 15-minute news, views and interviews show that covers the whole hobby of Warhammer 40,000. Today is Thursday, the 4th of June. I'm your host, Steve Joel, and today on the show, top European player Tom Leighton is in to talk about hashtag new 40K. There's more news coming out of GW every day. This is the biggest thing to happen in years, obviously, and we want to stay on top of it for you, so we'll get to that real soon. And any second now, part two of John's chat with Nils from Rightful Ruler, the app that looks to change the way we play and make everything super accurate. But first, let's check in with our Facebook poll. We're running a poll on Facebook and on Twitter that is asking this question: which is the most iconic tank in 40K? We've narrowed it down to two for you: the Lemon Russ and the amazing Land Raider. Now, I don't want to swing your vote one way or the other. You know, call me impartial, but that Land Raider, that was the first tank I bought, actually. Land Raider, a Crusader, in fact, for my Black Templar army. And it might not be the greatest vehicle in the game at the moment, but it's definitely iconic. You hear what I'm saying? At the moment, the Raider is edging the Russ in the voting. Get over to Facebook and cast your vote. We'll give the definitive results tomorrow. Cards on the table, I should let you know. This started as a discussion between our team members, and what we're trying to do is get you all to help us out. You'll never guess which way I'm swinging with my vote, because obviously impartial as. But if you could head over to Facebook or Twitter, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now, yesterday on the show, 40K Today's John Damaris started a conversation with Nils from Rightful Ruler. To catch you up, Rightful Ruler is an app that takes away the need for a tape measure, and it takes away any inaccuracies that inherently come with a tape measure. So anytime you have to measure over terrain or around a corner or across the top of models, this app can give you an exact measurement, and it goes so much further than that too. On yesterday's show, John and Nils talked about what the app can do now. So if you haven't listened to that, I really recommend it. Today, they talk about what's next for Rightful Ruler.
This app sort of paints a future. It's very, I'm going to say Star Trek, right? Where you're just like, everybody can be in harmony in the game, because a lot of times when you're playing a miniature game, it sort of requires a social contract where both players have to work towards each other's benefit of playing a clean game, because it's very easy to bump a model or get an inaccurate measurement, and so a lot of times to get a measurement right, it actually takes two sets of hands, right? So this Rightful Ruler app is going to change all of that, and it'll take some time to get people trained in how to use it. But let me ask you that really quick. How difficult is it to get used to using the Rightful Ruler app? Is there a large barrier to entry, or would you say that it's pretty intuitive?
I think there's a bit of a barrier to entry. We haven't nailed everything with the UI yet. One of the things that makes it a little bit tricky right now is one of the things that we are building that's super cool is not out yet, and that is the automatic base detection. So we have been working with some AI experts, and of course, just our own staff as well, on some computer vision that allows your phone to actually detect where there is a base. And what that allows us to do is that you can just tap a mini on the screen, and it will automatically place the right-sized base at the right location. So when we roll this out, which will be sometime in the next 2 to 12 weeks, you will basically be able to just tap any two minis you see on your screen, and it'll tell you the distance down to the fraction of 1/5 of an inch.
Wow, that's amazing. And honestly, 1/5 of an inch is great, because that's to me, that's within the fudge factor range of any miniature game, right? Because I've often held the belief that you really can't get a completely accurate measurement. Like there's even variation amongst tape measures, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Like a 10-inch tape might not be 10 inches. It might be 9.985 inches long, right? So,
and we also don't want to encourage a certain kind of that guyism.
Yeah.
So even though we can display a measurement more accurate than 1/5 of an inch, we reckon that if you're arguing about more than 1/5 of an inch, we're probably not enabling good behavior.
Yeah,
right?
no, I like that. I like that. So last thing I want to touch on, this is a little bit longer than our normal interviews, but I think it's just fascinating, so I can't help it. But so we talked about this AR space, and I want to ask you about some of the applications of it. So if we're both have a mobile device, we can mark things like effects on models that can't be moved or forgotten, right? So you could put
Yeah.
like -1 to hit, and then you could put it on models. I don't know if you could denote it with a color or something that makes it obvious.
Right now you can't. Right now it's just you can leave a text box somewhere on the map and drag and drop it to wherever you want it to be, right? But the way the engine is built is we will allow you to have customizable 3D objects that you can drop down. Like if you wanted to have a sexy wound marker, you'll be able to add that. So we're still in the pretty early stages of the beta. What we're building is a sandbox, akin to how Tabletop Simulator at the end of the day is a physics sandbox. We're building an AR content creation sandbox where the use case for it is tabletop gaming, but the underlying code enables quite a bit more. So the plan for things like annotations, to be clear, what you can get today, if you download it in the App Store today, is that you can place text boxes. So you can, I play Space Wolf, so I will put something like Room Priest +1 to wound or something like this, right? And I can't accidentally pick that up. I can't accidentally roll it. I can't forget that spell went through, which is pretty cool. If I can tell you, John, we just invited 2 competitive players to our office, I think 2 weeks ago, to try to play a game entirely without measuring tape, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, we had nothing on the table but minis. So no dice on the table. We rolled it separate on a dice tray. No markers on the table, and no measurements with a measuring tape. And the feedback we got from them, you can actually see this because we recorded it. It's on our YouTube channel. The feedback we got from the guys afterwards was that the game was surprisingly quick because not a single measurement was made twice.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Once you made a measurement, they agreed. There was only one measurement that was contested, and that was my fault, human error. I made a sloppy measurement and declared, house says this is a 6-inch charge. And then it turned out that I had just been sloppy with where I placed my marker. So that was, user error on behalf of the TO.
Well, that happens, right? And that happens in normal meat space sort of measurements, right? So very cool.
Yeah, so that works now. You can play around with it. To use the multiplayer, at least one of you has to have the paid version of the app. But to just use the radial measurements, which is the key thing, you just whip it out of your pocket if you're making a charge through terrain or something like that, or you want to quickly see who's in range of your aura. That's for free, and it's going to continue to be free.
That's excellent. All right. Well, Nils, thank you for taking the time to sort of bring us into this brave new world. And we'll definitely put lots of links in the show notes to some of those videos and stuff so people can check it out for themselves.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone is curious to catch up with us, they can find us on Facebook or on Discord.
That's Nils from Rightful Ruler. The links to download the app are in our show notes right now. Go get it. Give it a try. Next up, top European player Tom Leighton joins John Damaris to talk about Ninth and what he's looking forward to.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
Thanks for sticking with us. There's more information coming out about the new edition of 40K every day from GW HQ. Missions and command points and the way objectives work, and a great video that features some of the playtesters. There's just so much to read and see, and the hype is building. Top players all over the world have different things that they are most looking forward to. One of those players is Welsh WTC team member and top European player Tom Leighton. He sat down with John Damaris to talk about tanks and hiding in reserve.
Very fortunate to be joined on the program today by Tom Leighton, who is on the Wales our WTC team. Well, let's call it by the right thing. but you're getting ready for 9th edition. Do you want to kind of walk our listeners through like the process that you're going through? Because I think this would be helpful for a lot of people, right?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things I was struggling with when 8th edition first dropped was getting an army painted, because I really wanted to play Tau. I don't know why, at the start of the edition. And I had a massive issue getting all those painted ready. So what I'm just doing right now, I'm on furlough because of obviously all the COVID stuff. So I'm spending my my days just going through my cabinets and trying to paint every single miniature in my collection, which is a bit of a pain, just because I don't actually ever sell any models. Because as we know with the meta, it kind of goes this way and that, and it still kind of retains its value to a degree. So I'm trying to make sure I got all that ready and prep for 9th edition. I'm not expecting too many massive changes, just because of what was announced on the live broadcast that I was watching with all the reworks. But it looks like they're adding more to the game than they are just reworking things. So I'm just getting everything ready just in case we see a massive shift.
Yeah, well, one of the things I think I'm most excited about is the change to vehicles, and well, we don't know exactly what it's going to entail, right? But just touching them with a model and shutting them off for turn doesn't sound like it's going to be like a primary option, which might get some of the tanks back on the table, which I'd love. Other than, I think the only tank that we've really seen with any regularity is the flying tanks, and then tank commanders, and that's about it. Right?
So in the UK, we have a few, I like to call them Lehman Russ enthusiasts. So I have seen a few people like Mordy and Glory, Mr. Vass over there, and if there's a few other guys who really like to just run lots of Lehman Russes. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how they pan out with regards to those changes. I do want to see specifically, I'm very interested to see how the reserve rules actually impact the game, because they were talking about a reserve rework in the 9 things to watch for the new edition. And I want to see exactly what they're doing with that, because they were talking about things jumping out of ruins and all this kind of jank. So I think screening might change a little bit, but we'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and then the other thing it sounded like was the longer you go in the game, the more options you have for reserve, and like being able to reserve non-traditional things like tanks, for example, could swing the balance of the game, because 40K does have an inherent problem with the you go, I go problem, where a lot of times the Alpha Strike can be, if there's not proper terrain or whatever, it can be completely debilitating. But giving a person an option like, okay, look, these tanks are going to get blown up by your knights, but I can just bring them on turn 2 off a board edge, and then I get to shoot you first instead, and then the knight players over there going, well, fine, I'm gonna reserve this knight, and then I get to cut, it's kind of a it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It's about getting the jump right. I mean, I still remember like 5th, 6th, 7th edition where you could stick anything in reserve and it just walked on. I actually played against a guy who was coming back to the game in 8th edition at a tournament, and he was trying to reserve his fire warriors, not realizing that it changed. So I just let him walk him on. It was just like, okay, buddy, you go. I think you won a GT actually a few months later, but okay, fine. So I'm interested to see how that works, but equally I think it could create a slightly different issue. If you're just saying, well, if I can just reserve my entire army, well, I'll just go second, then you have to come on by the end of turn 3, and I just alpha you anyway. It means that you have it later in the game. I'm interested to see the nuance and the specifics of that.
Absolutely.
There's definitely going to be a balance to strike that. And the fact that we even have to rely on terrain to avoid the Alpha Strike at the minute is a bit silly. The fact that units individually have got less durable, and then you just pumped up the number of shots, which happened at the very beginning of 8th edition. I get it's more simplistic, but at the same time, it's very simple if you're just blowing your opponent off the table turn 1, right? That's the simplest thing you can get.
Yeah, the game has gotten more deadly, right? So a lot of times in 8th edition, as you go across the game, basically after turn 3, you're down to like a few characters and some squad remnants. Right?
Yeah, like pretty much.
That's kind of what, and then you close out the game. Makes for a very dynamic, interesting game, but a lot of the death and carnage happens in the first 3 turns, really the first 2 turns.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Sorry. I was just going to say, one of the things that's contributed to this, not only is that, but it's been the removal of Death Stars as well. And I'm not saying that's even a bad thing that they were removed. Because before, if you could just take an army that relied upon blowing your opponent off the board, well, what happens if you hit like a Kennel Star, which was 50 Fenrisian Wolves covered in buffs and invisible and can only be held on 6s, or a Screamer Council, which was 9 models with 2+ rerollable invulnerable saves? You're not going to be able to deal with that. So you have to find other ways to win the game. Now that that's not an issue, you can double down on one specific extreme and one specific way to win the game, which is kill your opponent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the future looks bright for 9th edition. Is there
Yeah.
anything, where can people find you if they want to like connect with you and talk with you a little bit about 9th edition?
So as we were talking about before I went live, I'm not really that active on Facebook, but you can find me on Twitter at Rollcracks, at AORGHRAX, or you can find me on The Honest Wargamer. We stream live every Thursdays at 7 p.m. UK time, and we upload a podcast as well. Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by.
That's top player Tom Leighton talking about the new 40K. By the way, if you missed yesterday's show, Richard Siegler was on giving us some awesome insight into AdMech and some of the new units and strats that he expects to see a lot of play out of Engine Wars. So I really recommend giving that a try. Okay, folks, let's rock with the model of the day.
It's the model of the day, the model of the day, the model of the day.
So today's model is by Andy Spencer. By day, Andy is a frontline medical care worker, and when he's not saving lives, he's a hell of a painter. Check him on Instagram at andy.spencer.982. The model we want to focus on is a super crisp, really clean 1000 Suns Sorcerer on disc. It's a different take on the disc than we usually see, and it's just so sharp. And there's plenty of cool kit bashing in the model itself. Note the extra arms. The painting on the gems is perfect. It's a stunning model. As always, the link to see it and all of his work is in our show notes. We've posted pics on Instagram and Facebook as well if you want to go see those. And if you have a model that you want us to feature on the show, or if you've seen a model that should feature, don't hesitate to let us know. And already, that's it for today. We're done. Thanks for joining us. A big thank you to our content producer, Alex Bainter, our social media guru, Tanya Gates, and our technical producer, Seamus Ronan, for all their hard work once again and putting the program together. If you like the show, get on over to Facebook and give us a like and a share, and the same for Instagram. And if you feel like dropping a review on iTunes or your podcast player, it'd help us out a lot. We'll see you tomorrow for a power-packed Friday episode to get your weekend sorted. Until then, for John Damaris and Paul Murphy and the rest of the team, I'm Steve Joel, and that's what's happening in 40K today.